My first video I did in a series, this will be the second video. The first video I did was about big batteries and small batteries versus small batteries, and how range requirements, how that all fits together, because that's the most frequent question I get when people ask me about ownership. I've owned my 2023 Lucid for going on 3 years now. When I purchased it, it was back originally in 2021. The decisions I had to make were important decisions, and things have changed a lot since then. So that's kind of what I'm trying to cover in these videos, is what you need to know today if you're looking to buy an EV. So as I said in the first video, the first question I get asked by people who are looking to buy an EV and know that I own an EV is, what's the range? So that's why I covered that first. But the question I rarely get asked, which I think is even more important, is people rarely ever ask, what's the efficiency? And a lot of that is because there's some things you need to understand about how efficiency is measured, and how EVs become efficient or they don't. And so that's what I want to cover today, is to kind of go through those things that I think are really important that you use to measure your buying decision on making sure that something fits not only your needs but also your budget. So welcome to my channel. My name is Paul, and this is Life After 70. So let's get into efficiency. Well, in my previous video, I talked about some things that I think are important for making buying decisions for an EV. And that first video, I covered battery size and range, and I talked about the importance of that. And today what I want to cover is the second video in this series will be about efficiency. Now, it's really difficult to talk about one without talking about the other, because they're all intertwined and related. But I think that having a good solid understanding of how range and efficiency and how battery size, all these things work together, I think will really help you in making a better decision if you're thinking about buying an EV. Or for me, in my case, I've owned an EV, my Lucid now I've owned for going on 3 years, and I want to bring some of my experiences that I have, the things that I've learned in the last 3+ years that I have gotten into ownership and improving my understanding of what it is, what are the need to knows in owning an EV. So the first thing is to understand efficiency and how it's measured. When you buy a new car, they have a rating on efficiency, and the one you're probably familiar with, everybody is, that shops for gas cars, is how many miles per gallon the car is rated. And that's a rating by the EPA here in the United States, but as we all know, it's a measurement tool that's not accurate for real world driving, but it gives you an indicator from one car to the next as to how it would do in its efficiency. So instead of miles per gallon with a EV, they rate it in an MPGE, and that's for electric. So it's a measurement that's a little bit hard to understand, a little convoluted, but basically it's a measurement of energy. The battery, they take a gallon of gasoline, and then they do the math on that to make a watt hour of energy in a battery, so that those two things kind of equal out, and then they find out how much energy that car will use, how many of that those watt hours per mile that car is going to use. And so that's kind of how they come up with it. So you may see a MPGE of 123 as an example, and then you may see another one that may be a 101. And that's telling you that the 123 is a lot better than the 101. Just like miles per gallon, it's kind of a relational type of thing between different cars. So that's the first thing to look at. But the way efficiency is measured here in the United States and also in many other countries is on how many miles you can travel on 1 kilowatt hour of battery. So doing some simple math here, if you had a 100 kilowatt hour battery and you used 1 kilowatt, that's 1% of the battery. If you had a 70 kilowatt hour battery, and that's how they measure batteries, is in kilowatt hours, how big that battery is. If you had a 70 kilowatt hour battery and you used 1% of that battery, it would be 0.7 kilowatt hours that you would be using. So there's some funny math in this whole thing, but it all makes sense when you kind of understand it. But the important thing to understand when you're shopping for the car is looking at not only just what the manufacturer sticker says as far as the efficiency goes or whatever their specifications show, but also knowing how many miles you can get on 1 kilowatt hour of energy. That's the key thing. Now, other countries, they do a little bit different thing where they how many kilowatt hours do you use every 100 miles? And there's a debate about which is a better measurement, but I'm going to talk about the one here in the United States, which is how many miles do you get per kilowatt hour? So on this chart that I have up on the screen here, it shows some examples of cars, and these aren't 100% accurate because they're going to vary from car model to car model, and also what accessories, what you've added to that car or didn't add to the car, the size of the tires, and we're going to talk about that. Other things that will make these amounts not exactly accurate, but they're going to give you an idea of the difference in efficiency. The best one I have up on the screen right here is the Tesla Model 3 rear-wheel drive, RWD rear-wheel drive, Tesla Model 3, and it gets, on this chart, it shows it that it gets 3.85 miles for every kilowatt hour of energy you use in the battery that's stored in the battery. So going back to some math, just to give you an idea of the cost of electricity, it can be it can be free, depending on how you're getting it. If you're getting solar or you're getting it at a shopping center that offers it for free, that kilowatt hour may cost you nothing. If you're buying it at home, most homes are paying here in the United States an average of about 15 cents for that kilowatt hour. So you can go 3.85 miles with that car for that 15 cents. If you go to a fast charger, the average price at fast chargers is probably around 50 cents per kilowatt hour, but it can be much less than that, and it can be ridiculously overpriced, depending upon where you're going. That's why you need to shop, and we'll talk about that. But if you're paying 50 cents per kilowatt hour at a fast charger, at a charging station, then you're going to get 3.85 miles in that Tesla for that 50 cents. So the prices are all over the place. And if you're a smart shopper, you'll be looking at that. Not only when buying the car, but also when you're going to fuel that car up with energy. Same as you would at a gas station. The gas stations post the prices before you drive in. You know what you're going to pay. And with electric cars, the apps or the car system, built-in system, will tell you what they're currently charging for energy at that station. But you'll learn as you go where it costs a lot of money and where it doesn't. So on the other side of that scale, the very bottom, is the GMC Hummer EV. It's one of the least efficient, as you can imagine, for a lot of reasons that we'll talk about. But that only gets just about 2 miles per kilowatt hour. It's 2.04. It's barely over 2 miles you're going to get on that GMC Hummer as a comparison to the Model 3, where you're going to get almost 4 miles. So almost double on the Tesla Model 3. Now there's all kinds of variations in each one of these cars as to what they'll be rated at, because again, it all depends on what they're equipped with as to how efficient they are. But the basic understanding here, the point I'm trying to make on this, is that if you understand the energy and the measurement of energy and how you can relate one car to another to see its efficiency, if you look at that MPGE first and then understand how many miles per kilowatt hour you're going to get in that car, those are the measurements you need to know. So I'm going to leave it there because I don't want to get too deep into this. It's just that understanding of the difference between the different cars is the important thing. So let's move on to the next subject. So now let's talk about another thing that I think is very important on efficiency, and that is the manufacturers and how they build the cars. And there's two really distinct type of cars out there in the EV world, and those two things are very different and very important. The difference between the two types out there is whether they were actually built from the ground up to be an EV. They talk about the platform. The platform is where you start at, where the wheels are attached, and how everything lays out from that point up. If you take a car that was a gas car platform, and there's lots of those out there, that were after the fact down the road decided that they're going to convert that gas car over to an EV. So they basically took the gas engine out and they took out a lot of other things, and they tried to replace all that with electric motors and batteries and everything else. And that's fine, except there's a penalty to be paid there, and that is inefficiency. It really affects the efficiency. The things that really affect it are efficiency and performance and space, and that all happens from day one when they design an EV. All these things are really put into place and considered in the manufacturing and design process, engineered so that they will have the best aerodynamics. They're going to be optimized in the battery placement. They're going to have a lower center of gravity, which adds better efficiency. And they're going to have more interior room because they're not going to be having to have components or spaces that were left over for components for other things that are not necessary with electric cars. The advantages of converted gas platforms can't match those that are designed from the ground up. And for a car that was never meant to be electric from the very beginning, just can't match a car that's built from the ground up and designed from the very beginning to be electric. Other things that can change the efficiency and are important, and this goes into the trim levels that you order on a car, is the tires. Typically the smaller tires get better efficiency, smaller diameter tires. 19 versus 21 as example, 21 inch. The 19s will get better, generally, will get better efficiency. They also have tires that are designed for higher pressures and a different kind of rubber. And there's a lot of engineering in the tires to make the EV get better efficiency. The weight is a big factor when designing a car. And there we get back into the battery again. If you put the batteries weigh a lot. And if you put a large battery into the car, you're adding a lot of weight to the car. And weight is a killer of efficiency in the manufacturing process or design of the car. Again, being low to the ground, that helps the aerodynamics a lot. And so in my Lucid, for example, it's almost like being in a sports car. It sits very, very low to the ground to the point where if you have mobility problems, it may not be the right car for you, because fortunately I don't. I'm still able to get in and out fine. After hitting my head a few times, I learned. But it does sit very low. It's like driving a sports car. And it sits low because it does better on efficiency, and the Lucid Air was designed around efficiency. That was the big process it went through. So those things are important, and cars, you want to look beyond just looks, or look beyond traditional, what you're used to, and look at how that car has been designed for providing the efficiency that you're going to want to have. So that's the point that I want to make, is getting a car preferably designed from the ground up to be an EV. It'll be a better EV than a car that was never designed to be an EV to begin with. So let's move on to the next one. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is charging your car and how well it does charging, fast charging in particular. Some cars have limits, rather strict limits on what the car can receive from a charging station, or even from home charging. And that makes a big difference in the time you're going to be spending at a charging station. The way you can measure that is you measure how many miles that you can add to your car per minute. So my car is a Lucid Air, and typically it will charge and receive enough energy at a fast charging station that equals about 15 to 20 miles per minute that I can add to the car. Now that will slow down according to how high you charge it up, but in an optimal range of say 20 to 60%, where I'm charging between that range, I can expect to add 15 miles per minute to my car. So that's a very important number, because you can take a Chevrolet Bolt, which is limited to fast charging at 50 kilowatts, and it will only receive about 3 miles per minute. So 3 miles on the Bolt is what you'd be adding, and for mine you'd be adding 15 miles, 3 times or more the speed that you'd be adding miles to my car when I'm at a charging station. So it's important to look at that when you're shopping for a car, is to find out how fast, what's the maximum that car can receive. And they all should have that in the specifications. The station may be able to put out, the dispenser that you go to may be able to put out up to 350 kilowatts, but your car may only be able to receive about 250, or in the Bolt's case down to 50. So some of the more premium cars, like some of the Air models, trim levels, they can go up to the full 350, and now the Gravity can even go up to 400 kilowatts. So big difference, and something you really want to think about. So let's go on to the next subject. So I kind of thought up of an interesting scenario here in this next information that I wanted to pass on to you. I did a little math with the help of AI. Can't take all the credit for doing math, not my strong point. But I asked AI to give me an example. I said, if a Model 3, Tesla Model 3, and a Hummer traveled 12,000 miles in their first year, which is typical mileage for somebody to drive, and the cost of the home charging was 15 cents per kilowatt hour, which is a typical rate here in the United States, kind of an average, and the fast charging was 50 cents per kilowatt hour, which is pretty much average around the United States for going to a fast charging station. And they both charge the same percentage. They charge 70% at home, and they charge 30% at fast chargers. And what would the expense be for both of those? And here's what the math comes out onto that. It says for 12,000 miles in the first year, charging 70% at home at 15 cents per kilowatt hour, and 30% of the charging's done at fast chargers at 50 cents per kilowatt hour, the Tesla Model 3 rear-wheel drive would cost about $781 in electricity, energy. $781. The GMC Hummer EV would cost $1,949 in electricity. It's a difference of $1,168 in just 1 year. So you can see that there's just a cost of ownership is substantially different between an energy efficient car and a car that's not energy efficient. So the reason for that is obvious. That you look at the two cars and you can see the difference between the two. Now, the other thing I want to talk about too here is that in the old days of gas cars, if you bought a economy car that got good gas mileage, you were paying a price in performance. They just didn't perform very well. You'd step on the gas and they weren't very fast. And that's kind of how we grew up with the cars. Is we wanted the muscle cars because you step on the gas and they go. With the economy cars that I'm talking about in EVs, it's a different world. The response, the 0 to 60 times are unbelievable. Even on the economy cars, the ones that get the best efficiency, they will beat out the muscle cars of the old days by a long shot. They have incredible torque, incredible efficiency, and performance. They've got the best of all. And that's the cool thing that you'll find in driving an EV. Even the most efficient ones, mine's considered one of the more efficient EVs, and it's also one of the best performance EVs. They have everything, and that's why they're so fun to drive. So here's the takeaway on this whole thing in conclusion, that the efficiency is not magic. It's really just physics. You add lighter weight and better aerodynamics and a drivetrain that's optimized, it all comes to a better performance car and a more fun car, and you can go twice as far and have twice the fun for the same cost. So anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this video. I enjoy making these videos. They're fun for me to talk about something I'm interested in and talking to you, because obviously you're interested or you wouldn't be listening to me talk right now. So I want to thank you for joining me, and I hope that you'll post your questions down below. And if you like this content, I'd appreciate you subscribing and hitting the thumbs up button. And I will be coming out with another video that will deal with more things about EVs and their efficiency and things to kind of a buyer's guide, hopefully, that will help people that are looking to buy an EV. So subscribe to my channel and you'll be able to keep up with the new things that I'm going to be talking about. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope you'll come back and watch more videos. Thank you. Bye.